I'll be explaining 3 sets of questions based on the short story A Face in the Dark. Okay, so we have one set of question is from the 2019 board paper of the 10th standard. Then the other set is from 2020 board paper of 9th standard, and then the last set is from the ICSE specimen paper. So we'll be discussing all these questions and I'll be explaining the answers also. Let us see the first set of questions, which is from the 2019 board paper. And this is an extract based question and it has 5 sub questions, in which 4 questions are of 3 marks and 1 question is of 4 marks. Okay. So I'll read the extract first, then the questions. So listen to the extract carefully. It is in page number 75 in your text. Okay. The extract goes like this. It had no eyes, ears, nose or mouth. It was just a round, smooth head with a school cap on top of it. And that's where the story should end. But for Mr. Oliver, it did not end here. The torch fell from his trembling hand. He turned and scrambled down the path, running blindly through the trees and calling for help. He was still running towards the school buildings when he saw a lantern swinging in the middle of the path. So this is the extract. I'm not going to read it again as it will make our video very long and a boring one. So that's it. Now I'll read the questions one by one and I'll also explain the answers. So please listen carefully. Okay. So the first part is, who was Mr. Oliver? Where did he encounter it? So this is a 3 marks question. So the first part, who was Mr. Oliver? The answer is very simple. Mr. Oliver was an Anglo-Indian teacher, which is the first line of the story. Okay. Then, where did he encounter it? So to write this answer, you should know what is it. So it is also given in your text. That is, so it is that it which was sitting on the rock with the caps. With a cap, head hung down, weeping. So it stands for the boy. Okay. So where did he encounter it? So Oliver encountered it in the pine forest when he was returning to the school from Shimla Bazaar. So this is the answer. This will give you 3 marks. Now the second question. Where did Mr. Oliver work? Why did Life magazine describe this place as the Eden of the East? So this answer for this part is also given in the first paragraph of the story. That is, Mr. Oliver Mr. Oliver was working in a school which had been run on English public school lines and is situated outside Shimla. Okay, why I said outside Shimla? Because here it is written. That school was situated on the outskirts of the hill station of Shimla. Okay, so that can be the answer for that part. And now, why did Life magazine describe this place as the Eden of the East? So the answer for this question was well explained in the session when we discussed A Face in the Dark. Hope you'll remember. So in that I said, Eton College was one of the most famous and expensive boys' school in UK. Okay, near Windsor in UK. So there, so similar to that school, here also this school was run on English public school lines, and all the boys were from wealthy Indian families, and they wore caps and blazers and ties. So this is why the Life magazine called this school as Eden of the East. Hope you got the answer. Okay, so this is also a 3 marks question. Now the third question. Why had Mr. Oliver approached it in the first place? Here also it is given in single inverted comma. Why had Mr. Oliver approached it in the first place? What had he mistaken it for? Okay. So why had Mr. Oliver approached it in the first place? Mr. Oliver went close to it, or he approached it in the first place, because he thought that that figure or that boy is a boy from his school or a student of his. Okay, that's why he went near it. Understood? So that can be the answer. You can write it as Mr. Oliver thought that it was a boy from his school, okay, who's out after dark. Then what had he mistaken it for? So he mistook the boy, or he mistook the figure as a miscreant, because so according to him, it was not right for the boys to be out after the dark. So he mistook that figure or that boy to be a miscreant. So this is also well written in your text. Now the third question. Why had Mr. Oliver approached it in the first place? What had he mistaken it for? Once again, why had Mr. Oliver approached it in the first place? What had he mistaken it for? So the answer is well written in page number 74. That is, Mr. Oliver moving closer so that he could recognize the miscreant. So Mr. Oliver thought that he was a boy from his school. Okay. So Mr. Oliver approached it. Okay. Approached it in the first place so that he can recognize the boy. He can have a clear look so that he can identify the boy. Okay. And then what had he mistaken it for? So he mistaken that boy to be a miscreant. Why? Because the boys of a school were not supposed to be out after dark. So Mr. Oliver thought that he is a miscreant. Understood? Now the fourth question, that is, what is lantern? Who was holding the lantern? Why did Mr. Oliver feel relieved at the sight of the lantern? Once more, what is lantern? Who was holding the lantern? Why did Mr. Oliver feel relieved at the sight of the lantern? So the answer is very simple. A lantern. Okay, now most of you would have got that picture of lantern in your mind, but sometimes it is very difficult to express the things that is there in our mind, right? So you can write it as a lantern is a lamp with a transparent shield that can be of made of metal with a glass slide, and then what else? It has a handle so that it can be carried outside. Okay, and now who was holding the lantern? So the watchman was holding the lantern. Then the third part. Why did Mr. Oliver feel relieved at the sight of the lantern? So that answer is also very simple, because Mr. Oliver, he was really nervous and got tensed by seeing that faceless figure. So he was running, right? His torch fell down, he was running, and he almost he got lost himself. Okay, so now it is quite natural for such a person to feel relieved when he sees a light, right? So here Mr. Oliver, he felt so relieved at the sight of the lantern, because he felt that there is a human being, there is someone for his help, and there is also light. So he was running in darkness. So when he saw the light, he felt so relieved that there is someone for his help. There is a human being for his help. Now the fifth question. Briefly describe the meeting between the lantern bearer and Mr. Oliver. State one reason why a face in the dark could be considered a horror story. Once again, briefly describe the meeting between the lantern bearer and Mr. Oliver. State one reason why a face in the dark could be considered a horror story. So this is a 4 marks question, and you have to write a little more. That is, the answer you can get towards the end of the story. That is, Listen, Mr. Oliver stumbled up to the watchman, gasping for breath. What is it, Sahib? Asked the watchman. Has there been an accident? Why are you running? I saw something horrible. A boy weeping in the forest, and he had no face. No face, Sahib. No eyes, nose, mouth, nothing. Do you mean it was like this, Sahib? Asked the watchman and raised a lamp to his own face. The watchman had no eyes, no ears, no features at all, not even an eyebrow. And that's when the wind blew the lamp out. So from this, you can frame out or you can trace out the answer in your own words. That is, Mr. Oliver, after seeing the boy or after seeing the faceless boy or faceless creature, he got really scared and he started running through the forest, and at the end, like he almost stumbled upon the watchman. Okay, so he saw the light, and then he ran in that direction, and he stumbled upon the watchman. So he felt so relieved when he saw that lantern light, and when he came near the watchman. Then what else? So he was unable to breathe and unable to speak. So then the watchman asked him, like, was there any danger? What happened to you, Sahib? And then for this, his answer was, or for this, Oliver said that, like, I saw something here. He saw something very strange and very horrible. So there was a boy weeping in the forest, and the horrible thing was that he had no face. Okay, and for this, after hearing this, the watchman seemed to be very surprised. And then what did he do then? Yeah, so the watchman acted to be like very surprised, and he also asked, like, okay, no face, no eyes, nothing. Then he took the lantern near to his face and he asked Mr. Oliver, so does it look like this? Do you or have you seen a face which is very similar to that of mine? So then Mr. Oliver came to know, or Mr. Oliver got so much more scared by seeing that the watchman also had a similar face like that of the boy. Okay, the watchman also, that face also lacked the things like the eyes, ears, nose, and it is also mentioned that it had not even, yeah, there was not even an eyebrow. So nothing about the eyebrow was said for the boy. Okay, so now when it came to the watchman, it is written the watchman didn't or the watchman doesn't have an eyebrow even. So this can be the answer for the first part, that is the description for the meeting between the lantern bearer and Mr. Oliver. Now, state one reason why a face in the dark could be considered a horror story. So there are many things. Okay, so sometimes it is always very much important to read the box given in your text just at the beginning or just before the beginning of the chapter. Okay, so here in that box towards the end, it is written, Ruskin Bond makes skillful use of all the elements of a horror story: fear, surprise, suspense, and mystery to explore humanity's collective fascination with the dark. So from this you can trace out the answer. Okay, and here they have asked to write just one reason. So you can write that the story arouses fear in us or fear in the readers. So it can be considered as a horror story. So this is the answer for the first set of questions. Hope you are understood. Now we will move on to the next set of questions, that is the 2020 board paper for the 9th standard students. Okay, this was the 9th standards board paper. So here it is not a extract based it is not extract based questions. So here we have 3 questions. In that, 2 questions are of 4 marks each and 1 question is of 8 marks. Okay, so only 3 questions are there. Now I'll read the questions one by one and we'll discuss the answers. The first question is, who is Mr. Oliver? What is his profession? Whom did he encounter while taking a shortcut through the pine trees? I'll read it once more. Who is Mr. Oliver? What is his profession? whom did he encounter while taking a shortcut through the pine trees? So we had the same question in the last set we discussed. So who is Oliver? He is a bachelor, an Anglo-Indian teacher working in a school outside Shimla. And yeah, what is his profession? So he is a teacher. Then whom did he encounter while taking a shortcut through the pine trees? So he encountered a boy sitting alone on a rock with his head hung down and weeping while taking a shortcut through the pine trees. So this is a 4 marks question. Now the second one. What is the cause of his panic? Whom did he stumble on? Bring out the similarity between the two encounters that Mr. Oliver had that night. I'll read it again. What is the cause of his panic? Whom did he stumble on? Bring out the similarity between the two encounters that Mr. Oliver had that night. So the cause of his panic, what is it? So that is Mr. Oliver encountered a boy when he was passing through the pine forest, and the boy had no face, okay, or his that boy had no eyes, no nose, no ears, nothing on his face, and this was the reason for his panic. And then whom did he stumble on? So he stumbled on the watchman, who was the lantern bearer. Then bring out the similarity between the two encounters that Mr. Oliver had that night. So what was the similarity? Both the watchman and the boy. So the watchman and the boy were the two people that Mr. Oliver encountered that night. So both these people, they lacked any features on their face. Like the boy had no eyes, no ears, no nose, no mouth, and the watchman also was in a same state. Like even the watchman's face had no eyes, no ears, no nose, no mouth, and not even an eyebrow. So the eyebrow was specified in case of the watchman only. It was not, nothing was said about the boy's eyebrow. So this was a similarity between both the encounters. Like both the people he met at night had no face. Then the next one, that is 8 marks question. Give a brief description of Mr. Oliver's second encounter that night. So the same answer for the fifth question that we have discussed in the 2019 paper, that 2019 set, can be the answer for this. So that question was, briefly describe the meeting between the lantern bearer and Mr. Oliver. So here also it is the same. Give a brief description of Mr. Oliver's second encounter that night. So the same thing can be written here. Then comment briefly on the ending of the story and say what makes it effective. So we know, right, towards the end of the story, like so Mr. Oliver, he felt so relieved when he met the lantern bearer, but soon, like very soon, he understood, or he recognized that even the lantern bearer had no face and not even an eyebrow. It was same like that of that boy. And even it ends like this. The wind blew and the lamp went out. So the story ends in utter darkness, and something is left for the readers to think, or the readers to imagine. Like now it will make all of us to think, okay, what would have happened to Oliver? Like it will make us bit scared, that it will arouse that element of fear in it, which actually makes it a horror story, right? So and so that ending, that very abrupt ending, is very much effective, as it arouses that fear in the readers, and it keeps something more for the readers to imagine about Oliver's end. Like it will make us think what would have happened to Mr. Oliver. It will make us imagine a lot, okay, and it arouses fear in the readers. So yeah, so we can say that this really makes the ending of the story very effective. So you can write the answer in your own words. For this question, that is for the second part of the question, you need not write the entire story again, where it is asked like comment briefly on the ending of the story and say what makes it effective. You just want to like, for the question just before that you are describing all about Oliver's encounter with the watchman. So what here you have to do for this part is like just write your comment on that ending where the wind blows the lamp out. So on that part you have to comment, and it is like, so that is actually the climax of the story, right? Yeah, the climax is reached when the wind blew out the lamp. And so here it leaves the readers to imagine what might have happened to Mr. Oliver, and it arouses fear in us. So that's why, or this is why that ending is very much effective. Okay, in this way you can answer it. But for since it is an 8 marks question, you have to write it like you have to write a little more. Yeah, that's it. So hope you all understood all the questions. And now we have one more set, that is the ICSE specimen paper questions. We'll discuss that also. Okay. So that is again that is again an extract based question. I'll read the extract once. Listen to it. "What are you doing out here, boy?" asked Mr. Oliver sharply, moving closer so that he could recognize the miscreant. But even as he approached the boy, Mr. Oliver sensed that something was wrong. The boy appeared to be crying. So hope you got the paragraph. It is in page number 74, the last paragraph in page number 74. Okay, so now the questions based on it. Listen to it carefully. Again, the same. Who was Mr. Oliver? How did he usually spend his evening? So I am not going to repeat the answer for that first part. Who was Mr. Oliver? Then the second part. How did he usually spend his evenings? So it is written here. Yeah, Mr. Oliver, a bachelor, usually strolled into the town in the evening, returning after dark when he would take a shortcut through the pine forest. So you can say that he usually strolled, or he usually took a leisurely walk into the town in the evening, or into leisurely walk to the Shimla Bazaar in the evening, and he used to return after it is dark, and he used to take a shortcut through the pine forest. So this is the answer. Then the second one. Mention any 3 facts about the school at which he worked. So yeah, we can see that in the first paragraph. That is, the school was situated at the outskirts of Shimla. Then the school had been run on English public school lines. Then most of the boys, or most of the students of it was a boys' school, and most of the boys were from wealthy Indian families, and they wore blazers, caps and ties. So these are few facts about that school. So you have to write 3, since it is a 3 marks question. Then the next one. Where did Mr. Oliver found the boy? How could he tell that the boy was weeping? What made Mr. Oliver feel uneasy? Once more. Where did Mr. Oliver found the boy? How could he tell that the boy was weeping? What made Mr. Oliver feel uneasy? So you can, for the first part, you can write it as Mr. Oliver found the boy in the pine forest when he was taking a shortcut through the pine forest. The boy was sitting alone on a rock, okay, with his head hung down. Then, excuse me. Then the next part is, how could he tell that the boy was weeping? So that the answer for that you can see here in the last paragraph in page number 74. So it is, the answer is he could tell that the boy was weeping because his head was hung down, and he held his face in his hands, and his body shook convulsively, or it moved in a sudden, violent, or irregular way. So by seeing this, and that by hearing that sound, Mr. Oliver felt that the boy was crying, or the boy was weeping. Then what made Mr. Oliver feel uneasy? So the thing is, the boy was making a very strange, soundless weeping, and by hearing this, Mr. Oliver felt very uneasy. So that is again a 3 marks question. Now we'll read the next question. What did Mr. Oliver see when the boy finally looked up? What was Mr. Oliver's immediate reaction? Once more. What did Mr. Oliver see when the boy finally looked up? What was Mr. Oliver's immediate reaction? So the answer for that is in the first paragraph in page number 75. Okay. That is So that is, the boy looked up. He took his hands from his face and looked up at his teacher. The light from Mr. Oliver's torch fell on the boy's face, if you call it a face. It had no eyes, ears, nose or mouth. It was just a round, smooth head with a school cap on top of it. So that from that you can trace out the answer. Okay. That is, finally when the boy looked up, Mr. Oliver saw that it had no eyes, ears, nose or mouth. It was just a round, smooth head with a school cap on top of it. Yeah. And the next part, what was Mr. Oliver's immediate reaction? So what was it? That also you can see here. Suddenly the torch fell from his trembling hand. Then he turned back and he started running. So you can say that. So by seeing that boy, or by seeing that faceless creature, Mr. Oliver, he felt so scared, and he got panicked, and the torch fell from his hand and he started running in the direction of the school. Okay. Yeah. Then we have one more question, that is a 4 marks. Listen to it. To whom does Mr. Oliver turn for help? What does he discover about this person? Mention any 2 effective methods that the author has used to create an eerie atmosphere in the story A Face in the Dark. I'll read it again. To whom does Mr. Oliver turn for help? What does he discover about this person? Mention any 2 effective methods that the author has used to create an eerie atmosphere in the story A Face in the Dark. So the first part is simple. To whom does Mr. Oliver turn for help? So Mr. Oliver turned to the watchman, or to the lantern bearer, for help. What does he discover about this person? He discovered that the watchman also had a face, or he had no face. It was also just a round head without eyes, nose, ears, mouth, or not even an eyebrow. Then mention any 2 effective methods that the author has used to create an eerie atmosphere in the story A Face in the Dark. So he has used so many elements to create a supernatural atmosphere in the story. Okay, like you can say, it is said that that eerie sounds of pine trees kept people away from the pine forest, and all of them chose the main road because of this. So that description of the eerie sound, then the batteries of the torch running down, then the flickering of light, then silent sobbing, which made Oliver feel uneasy, and then this lantern swinging in the middle of the path, then the faceless figures, and then suddenly the lamp going off because of the wind. So all this adds to the what that that mysterious, or like it really makes the story a horror story, right? Huh. So all this creates a supernatural condition in the story, or it creates a supernatural atmosphere in the story. So you can write any two of this as an effective methods. But like he was giving a description about the dark, about the sound, okay, and the way like Mr. Oliver reacted by seeing the boy, and then that ending of the story, like the wind blew and the lamp went out. So all this can be written as two effective methods that the author has used to create a very fearful atmosphere, or a very strange atmosphere in the story. Okay, so yeah, so that makes the answer. mm, so I hope you have got all the answers and you have understood everything. So this is all for today. Already the video is a bit long, so nothing more. Listen to the video, take down the questions, write the answer, listen to the answers and write the answers in your own words. So that will make you more confident. It will give you more confidence, and like you will learn how to write. Okay, so don't feel lazy. Spend little time for English, and yeah, so that you can score really high. And so after explaining all these questions, after listening to all this, you would have understood the only thing you have to do to score high in English literature is that you have to read the text thoroughly. You should be very much thorough with the content in the text, nothing else. Okay, there is no need of any guides or anything. Read the text thoroughly and work on it. Okay, then, bye. Stay home, stay safe, take care. Thank you.